Hey, what's up guys? So time for a temporary dash cam install, and today we're going to use the Vueroid S1 4K. Now this is the rental car that we just picked up. I just dropped off the Kia EV9, which was recently hit while parked, which I covered in a previous video. Looks like it's going to take about a week or so for the EV9 to get repaired. In the meantime, we've got this dadmobile here of a minivan. Now normally for rental cars, I like to use something like a Vantrue E1 Pro, and then I'll hook it up to maybe a 70 mAh dash cam battery pack for parking mode protection. But this time around, I think I want to go for a 2-channel setup here with both the front and rear cam, especially given what happened with the EV9. And instead of a dedicated parking mode battery, I kind of want to try their OBD2 connector here instead to pull power from the car battery. Now, taking a closer look at that, you can see they do have a bunch of pins here. It's not like a 2 or 3 pin version, which is what I prefer. But I want to take a look and see how well it works here. And the minivan that they gave us, it's a hybrid. It's actually a plug-in hybrid, and we can actually charge it up at home, which is pretty convenient. But I basically want to go ahead and get it hooked up here and test it out in a plug-in hybrid just to verify there's no issues. Now for the dash cams themselves, they do use the traditional double stick tape here, the permanent ones. And so because they don't offer a suction cup option, I'm just going to throw in some other double stick tape here for a temporary install. Now to test it out here before I install it, let's just plug in the rear cam here into the quick release mount. And then down here next to the pedals, we've got our OBD2 connector, and this is super simple. We're just gonna plug it in here like this. Then we can plug in our dash cam like this, and it's gonna go ahead and start to power on. I've also got it set up here for no delay to switch between driving and parking mode. Now to test out the parking recording, let's begin here first by turning off the car here like this. And in theory, it should go ahead and switch on over to parking mode. Okay, so there is a little bit of a delay there, but it does switch on over to parking mode, so that's good to see. And then later on when we come back to the car, if we power on the engine, it should go ahead and power back on. So there we go. We've got our driving and parking mode working here via OBD. Now, in terms of cable management, usually here with the OBD2 plug, it's going to be kind of here next to the outside of the car, and then you just kind of like run the cable up the headliner behind the the airbag, and then over to the dash cam, which will be somewhere back there. But because I'm doing a temporary install, I'm just going to run the cables kind of along like this and then straight up to the dash cam. And so for that reason, I do have to do a little bit more work actually running this cable up along there, making sure it's not interfering with the pedals or anything, which is a little bit different than if I was to use a dedicated dash cam battery pack here like this, where I can just plug it into a cigarette lighter so it charges while I drive, and then it just outputs directly here to these cables, which I can plug into a hardwire cable for parking mode, and then just go straight up from here, boom, right up to the dash cam up there. So running from OBD2 here is going to be a little bit more work for a temporary install compared to just having a dash cam battery pack right there, but it's not too big of a deal to run the cable over here. We just kind of went up over this way, like over the pedals, and making sure that we're not interfering with the steering column in any way. I also love it when these panels pop off here with the clips, almost like Lego, so you can just run the cables really easily behind the panels and then just tuck them under as needed. Now to mount front cams, I usually like to have them kind of behind the rearview mirror like this, so that when I'm in the driver's seat, it's mostly blocked here by the rearview mirror. And to stick it to the windshield, I can just throw on some double stick tape here on the mount like that. Then we can start to peel off the protective film like this. Not the prettiest thing ever, but it'll do the job. Then we can clean off our mounting area. That way the tape will stick well, and the dash cam has a nice clean windshield to look through. Then when sticking it on the windshield, I do usually like to have it turned on to make sure that I'm mounting it relatively straight. This way, once the tape permanently adheres, it's gonna look good. I can adjust the angle of the lens here as needed too. Next, we can install the rear camera here on the back window. The cable that connects the rear cam to the front one, the length varies, of course, from one dash cam to the next. In this case, it's about 20 feet long. I haven't measured it yet or anything, but I'm assuming it's gonna be long enough to make it to the back of the minivan. Now with the Vueroid, there's actually a quick release connector here on this rear cam cable that runs from the front to the rear. So let's go ahead and get this run to make sure that we can get the full length here in the car, and then we'll put this in place. Now normally for a permanent install, we would be taking our cables and hiding them. So we'd tuck them up in the headliner, go along like this, back behind the airbag, down the trim and whatnot. But in this case, we can just kind of go straight down, because again, this is just a quick, like 1 week temporary install. Then for the cables to get to the back of the car, we can just kind of start running them along like that, maybe under the mat. It'll pop out over here. I can start to just kind of like, start tucking it here like this, just with my fingers under the trim. And while it's not going to win any beauty awards having cables visible like this as they go under the trim, for a quick and dirty install, it'll do the job. Then taking a look at the rear of the car, normally the cable would probably kind of go like up like this, and then up through this little tube to the rear dash cam there. But for now, we're just going to do the ugly install where we just kind of like run the cable, boom, and plug it in, and then just the cable is going to be dangling down. So looks like we have just enough slack here to make it for the rear cam. Now, as far as placement for the rear cam, a lot of times I like to turn on the rear wiper like this so I can see exactly where it's going to clean, so that when it's rainy, I don't want to be putting it in a spot where like it's going to be covered by the rain. I want the wiper to actually help, and because it is going to be raining here over the next week in Seattle. In this car, it looks like right here underneath the brake light is going to be a good spot. And if I stop the wiper, you can actually see the little arc right there in the dust. Hopefully it shows up on camera where the wiper has been cleaning. Then we can go ahead and clean off here where the dash cam's going to go. And we'll wipe down this whole area. And then on the rear cam, I can put another piece of temporary 3M double stick tape. And whenever I'm doing rear cams, I like to avoid the rear defroster lines. So when I peel things off, I don't wind up damaging those and breaking anything. And I can kind of fit it right behind them like that. I can also center myself here like this and then use some of those lines to go parallel with. Then we can go ahead and press down on that tape to help it bond. I also like to use some of the trim panels that these dash cams often come with to allow me to like kind of hide the cables back behind the panel. I can just kind of pull it back a little bit like this and then just tuck the cable right inside. And then we can go ahead and plug in that rear camera to that extension cable that we just ran. And then I like to pin some of the extension cable behind the trim here as well, so that the cable itself is not actually pulling on this connector and potentially unplugging the rear cam. And then the cable itself is just going to run down ugly again, but out of the way so I can put bags and stuff in here. And just keep this off to the side. Now, something I just realized and remembered, I'd previously been doing some testing here with this as a front-only dash cam, and so if we go into the settings, you can see that it's only got one camera plugged in, so I actually do have to go and reformat it to get that second cam working. So let's go over here to camera usage. We'll turn on the rear cam here like this, and then it's gonna prompt me if I wanna switch it to 2-channel, so I will say yes, and then it's gonna wanna format the card here like this. And now that we're powering back on, okay, cool. We've got blue here for both the front and rear cams, so they are up and running. And so now when I want to switch camera angles, there we go. I can see the rear cam here like this, and I can combine front and rear. Let's actually go ahead and switch to Wi-Fi. We'll turn that on to make it a little bit easier for me to see the rear cam while I'm aiming it. Then with the rear hatch closed, eyeballing the cam, it looks like we're in the right ballpark. Maybe a little bit low, but let's double check. And with the app pulled up, we'll just click on Live. And I can switch to the rear cam here. And yeah, it looks like we're pretty good, though I do want to maybe go up a notch. And it looks like our horizon's pretty good, though I do a lot of times actually like to have the rear cam pointed down quite a bit. So in case like we get rear-ended or something, I do have better visibility looking down here. Unlike the front cam where I normally like to have it with the horizon pretty straight, with the rear, I a lot of times like to have it pointed down a bit like this. And while we're here, we can actually go back into the settings. You can see we've got it set up here with 4K for the front and then 2K for the rear. I'm going to do 30 FPS. We've got our infinite plate capture, kind of their proprietary image processing they use to help capture license plates. For the power off voltage, we should double check this now that we are no longer using a dedicated dashcam battery pack. It looks like for hybrids, they actually recommend much higher voltage cutoffs. So I'm going to set it to like 12.7. Hopefully that'll work. I am wondering if we're gonna have to go back down to something closer to for the like internal combustion engines. We'll have to double check and just verify that it's working properly here. And then all the rest of the stuff, of course, as always, you can set the way you want. You can double check for new firmware, but we're running the latest and greatest, which at the time right now is 1.4.2. And then coming back into the car, here's what it looks like in the rear. You can see we've got the rear dash cam, we've got the connector, and then the cable hanging down here like this. And then for the front camera, of course, we've got it installed right here behind the rearview mirror. Now, double checking that voltage stuff though, let's go ahead and quickly turn off the car and see if the dash cam is going to turn off or if it's going to stay in parking mode.
Starting parking recording.
Okay, there we go. Worked that time. A little slow, but did eventually work here. So cool. Glad to see that this is working, and I guess we do still have enough voltage here in the battery to set it to parking recording. And now that we've got the install completed, we've got our dash cam set up here for both front and rear, driving and parking. So now in the rental car here for the next week, I've got my full dash cam protection in both directions. Now this dash cam is also available with an optional interior cam if you wanted to record inside the car here as well. For now, I'm just installing it with the rear cam here like that. But down in the description below, I'll link to the 2-channel version that I'm using here or the 3-channel if you want to add the cabin cam. Additionally, I've got an article on my website that goes over how to hardwire a dash cam for permanent installation as well, with a variety of different ways as far as how you can power the dash cam. And I'll link to that article for you down in the description below as well. And so with that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys are all doing great, and I'll see you in the next one.